Tracy.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. I promise you this is going to be a great weekend. This may be the most important 3 days that you spend in your business life, and it's certainly our goal. Fortunately, we've been teaching these ideas now since about 1984, and we've upgraded them continually. We put in thousands and thousands of hours. We've taught thousands of entrepreneurs in close held coaching sessions that have gone on for years, and we've perfected and refined it and perfected and refined it. And what we're going to be sharing with you in the time that we're together is the best of the best of the best, the best that we've ever found. And many people have told us that just one idea has had such a profound effect on their business, something they hadn't even thought of. I was in Las Vegas recently, and this young guy came up to me and he said, I would say young guy, he's 30 when you're my age, 30 is young. And he said, you know, you were here talking to our group, a large group, two years ago, and you said if we used these ideas, we would double our income, or could double our income in the next 2 to 3 years. He said, boy, were you wrong. He said, I increased my income 500% in the last 12 months. He said, just using these ideas. He said, I couldn't believe it. And there was just one concept that you taught that I'd never heard before that I began to use over and over again. He said, I've never made so much money in my whole life. And I thought that was a great compliment. It was one of the reasons why they brought me in. But right behind him was a woman who had tripled her income and a man who had quadrupled his income. Somebody, it was like a wedding receiving line. Everybody coming up and telling you their success stories. And I thought about this afterwards, and I thought, isn't that interesting? Here's this guy who's working away, and he wasn't doing that well, he told me earlier, and increased his income 500%. And what will happen as a result of that? Well, he's now got a brand new car. He's got a beautiful home. He's no longer living with his parents. He's got a bank account full of money. He'll marry better. He'll have great children. The kids will go to private schools and great universities. He will have people working for him. His whole life will be totally different because he learned one idea, because he went to a seminar. Now, you never know what the idea is going to be. So my philosophy is always give a lot of ideas. You never know which one is going to be the right one for you, so we'll give a lot of ideas. But if your goal is to increase your sales and cut your costs and dramatically increase your profitability, then this is the right place for you, because I will show you how to do it, as I have shown thousands of other people. In fact, I used to guarantee that if you come to me and work with me for a year, I will show you how to double your income and double your time off. And my success rate runs about 99%. It's about 99%. And I use sort of what I call the treadmill analogy. And I asked this question. I said, if you bought a treadmill, which is the most popular selling piece of exercise equipment in America, they sell about $1 billion a year in treadmills, believe it or not. If you bought a treadmill and took it home, what would determine how much benefit you got from the treadmill? Yeah, well, it's how much you use it and how long each time. It's not if you hang your clothes on it to dry, you know. And so these principles that I'm going to share with you are just like a treadmill. They're absolutely guaranteed to work. There's no question that they work. The only question is, will you use them, and how long and how often will you use them? I started off my career quite humbly. I did not graduate from high school. I finished in the half of the class that makes the top half possible. And I struggled when I left high school without graduating. I worked at laboring jobs for several years. When I could no longer find a laboring job, like most of you, I got into sales. And in sales, I spun my wheels month after month until I began asking, why is it that some salespeople are more successful than others? And I went to the top salesperson of my company, and I asked him, and he told me. He had been trained, when he got out of college, he had been trained by a Fortune 1000 company. They'd trained him for a year before they put him in the field. They'd trained him in every single aspect of professional selling. And he can now walk into any company, any industry, any market, and he can sell 10 times as much as anybody else within 30 to 60 days. Because he knew how to do it. He knew what he was doing. And I was thinking before I came down here today, they say that everybody in life has a watershed experience, maybe more than one. But I had a watershed experience because I had started my own business and I was struggling. I wasn't making many sales and I was worried about money all the time. And I was getting all kinds of rejections and failure and so on. And I struggled year after year, and I was in my 30s. And then I asked myself, why is it that some business people are more successful than others? And it occurred to me it's because they were better educated. Now, it turned out not to be true, but I didn't know that. So there was a big advertisement in the paper for an executive MBA at the University of Alberta, 30,000 students. You could go as an adult working. You could take evening and weekend and summer courses. So I signed up and I took an entire executive MBA program, 4,000 hours. And in this program, they taught me that business has been broken down into scientific parts, whether it's economic theory, whether it's marketing, whether it's strategy, planning, personnel, psychology, all of these different courses that you had to take. Now, at the same time that I was doing this, I caught the eye of one of the greatest entrepreneurial executives in Canadian history, a man named Dr. Charles Allard. And he liked me because I took the first deal I ever had, I took to his company, and they bought it, which changed my whole life. And he liked the way I handled it so much, he asked me if I would go to work for him as his personal assistant, which is like dying and going to heaven. This man was a man of great talent, great character, so respected, so smart. I still am in awe of him, even though he has passed away. And I went to work with him, and he owned 200 companies at that time. And what he did is he would give me an assignment with this company or that company, a problem, and I would go in and look at it. And then I would spend hours with him, and he would explain to me different parts of business. And what I learned is that the law of cause and effect applies to business. If you do certain things in a certain way, you get a certain result. And if you take the combination of these two experiences, working with Dr. Charles Allard for 3 years, and eventually I built three major businesses that yielded tens of millions of dollars. And he taught me, he schooled me in step-by-step. Real estate development, I didn't know anything about real estate development. I didn't even know how it was correctly spelled, for that matter. And by the time I was finished, I developed $100 million worth of properties. I had annex properties, built shopping centers, built residential subdivisions, built downtown office buildings, and I got schooled. And what I learned was that in business, if you do certain things in a certain way, you get a certain result. And sometimes it's only one or two small things that you do that can bring about a profound difference. Many years ago, after I was successful with Dr. Allard, I got an opportunity. I set a goal for myself, a visualized goal, was to have a Mercedes-Benz, a silver gray 450 SEL Mercedes-Benz. I saw some other younger person than me with one, and I said, I'd love to have a car like that. And once you sort of program that into your subconscious mind, your reticular activating system sees Mercedes-Benz everywhere. And one day, I won't go into it, I got a chance to buy one at a price that I couldn't resist, and I did. So I had this beautiful Mercedes-Benz, and when you took it out on the highway, it was like a big boat, and you step on the accelerator, and it would pick up speed, and it would go faster and faster and faster, and unfortunately, there's just too many highway patrol in that area. I got ticket after ticket. I got 3 tickets in one day once, just driving that car. Anyway, so here I am with this beautiful car, and I'm very happy because it's big and it's powerful and it's got a huge engine the size of a kitchen, and it's got beautiful leather upholstery and everything else. And one day I took it in to get it serviced. And the mechanic, his name was Mario, I still remember him, he called me up and he said, you know, there's a problem with your carburetor. It's really impeding your acceleration. I said, well, I certainly hadn't noticed that because it was going, it was accelerating pretty fast. He said, we need to change it. It'll cost $69 to put in this new valve or something else. Well, it turned out that the previous repair had actually put in a valve, but they put it in backwards. So instead of the gasoline spraying, it was condensing. But even with a Mercedes like that, it was still fine. So he changed the valve, very small valve in the carburetor, and he said, I think it'll have more pep now, but be careful. So I still remember being in his parking lot, his garage, and there's the entryway to the street. So I got in, and I'm used to stepping on the gas, and the thing goes, and it starts to move and gets faster. So I stepped on the gas, and the car went, pew! like the Roadrunner, beep, beep, pew! Like that. And I had to slam on the brakes to stop from lurching into the street where the traffic was. I couldn't believe it. And he said, well, just that one valve. And I still remember that as a metaphor. You know, the metaphor I'm referring to is that sometimes just changing one valve in your business can suddenly cause your sales and profitability to go pa-choom, like that. And everybody has these experiences. My goal is for you to have a whole variety of these potential experiences in the course of the time that we spend together. And so I've designed this whole day so that you're going to be fully active mentally. This is not going to be a lecture. This is going to require that you be fully engaged in what you do. Now, let me just check here. I wanted to mention that we have our coaches. Can I have our focal point coaches just stand so you can see these people? These are all professionally trained coaches who come from all over the United States to be here as resources for you. They work with hundreds of businesses. They've brought about millions of dollars of changes and benefits. So if you have any questions at all, if you see a focal point coach, ask them, because they're here at your service. They're here just to be available to you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Please sit down. Thank you. Outside, we have our friends from Infusionsoft, and Infusionsoft has fantastic software that helps you follow up with your customers and make more sales. It helps you put your customers into basically a production line and follow up with them on a regular basis. And instead of losing track of your customers, you follow up with them in a systematic way. And Infusionsoft is one of the most popular forms of software for customer follow-up in the world today. Is anybody familiar with Infusionsoft? It's a good stuff. So go and ask these people, because they are going to give you there's some information in the back of your book. They're going to give you 4 special e-products that will help you increase your sales and profitability. Also, we have Laughlin & Associates, and Laughlin & Associates are experts at business. They're business formation experts on how you can protect your business. They've been working for decades. They're extremely smart, and they help business owners like us avoid an enormous number of pitfalls that we're not even aware of. You know, we have so many laws today. A friend of mine in Washington wrote a book called One Nation Under Arrest, referring to the United States. And basically it says that every single American commits two criminal offenses every day, because there are literally hundreds of thousands of pages and millions of words of regulations. And the people who write the regulations love to write regulations. And the regulations are not passed by Congress. They give them a sort of like with this health care bill, there's 186 new departments that have been set up. And the heads of the departments yet to be chosen are responsible for writing the regulations in each of those departments. Every one of them has the force of law. So there will be thousands of more regulations. So everywhere it's like a minefield. And anyway, what Laughlin & Associates will do is help you avoid some of the regulations. They're very, very low cost. But I know that if you run afoul of these regulations in business, it can be fatal to you. You have no idea. If you haven't been through a criminal prosecution or a lawsuit yet, you're in for it. All right. Now, in page 227, there is an action planner. If you go to page 227, please. There's what is called an action planning form. And this is going to be your new best friend. And as we go through this session, you are going to have ideas. They're going to be sparks. And there's a little rule that says, when you think it, ink it. So when you get an idea, and the idea could come out of the air, the idea could come out of conversation, the idea could be just a flash of intuition, but you will have ideas about your business and what you can do. When you have that idea, stop whatever you're doing and writing it down, because you may find that that idea was worth 10 times or 100 times coming to this seminar. But if you don't write it down, it just goes off into space, and you'll forget it. Maybe a year later, you're like, geez, I thought about that when I was in San Diego, and why didn't I write it down? So be sure to write down the goal or action that you're going to take and the date. When we've done this with our clients, what we do is we have them do this at the end of a session. We have 4 sessions a year. What we're doing is we're putting the 4 quarterly sessions into 2.5 days. What we'd have them do is do this, and when they came back 90 days later, we would say, does everybody have their list from the last meeting? And they admitted that they hadn't really looked at it since the last meeting, because that's what entrepreneurs don't do. But when they did take it out just before they came, because they knew I was going to ask, they were astonished to find that they'd done everything they wrote on their list. And their business and their lives were totally changed. So it's the most amazing thing. Just write it down, and you'll be absolutely amazed. Because when you write something down, it's what is called a psychoneuromotor activity, which is an impressive word. If you really want to impress somebody, say, oh, that's a psychoneuromotor activity you're engaged in there. So when you write it down, what happens is you program it into your subconscious mind. You see it, you think it, you sub-vocalize it, and kinesthetically you write it, and you actually put it into your hard drive, and it begins to run by itself. And at a certain time, you tend to engage in the action. It's the most amazing damn thing. We all know about these psychological things. So write it down. It's really important. You come up with 15, 20, 25 points, and those points are going to make you rich. Those points are what will guarantee that you'll double your income and double your time off. Now, I handed out something to you, and I asked you to fill out this form on pre-work. How many people did their pre-work? How many did their pre-work this morning? How many people are still working at their pre-work while I'm talking, trying to get through it? Okay. I know you guys. You're no damn good. I know it. You're entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs and men are no damn good. Now where is, I had my pre-work here. Shoot, where is it? Where is it here? Okay, here it is. Now, here's a question. What is the most important part of this seminar, of our time together? What's the most important part of our time together? Well, the answer is the actions that you take afterwards. It's what you do as a result of our conversation, as a result of your work, as a result of our discussion. It's what you do afterwards. It's not the time that we spend together, but it's the actions you take and how fast you take them and how consistently you take those actions. So a person who takes one major action as a result of this is far more valuable than a person who learns 1,000 things and takes no action. So always be thinking in terms of taking action. Can you grab that for me? Shoot. Now here is the second question, is what is the most valuable and most important skill that you have? What is your most valuable and most important skill? Yes, it is your ability to think. It is your ability to think because your thinking determines everything. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. Now, what is the major provocation of good thinking? And the answer is questions. Really good questions. So you'll find that everything we do is around questions. I'll explain a concept and then you'll be forced to answer questions because the questions are like those cattle prods with the batteries in it, and they literally jolt your brain. One good question. Peter Drucker used to say, I'm not a consultant, I'm an insultant. I don't give advice, I ask questions and force people to think about the answers. So what you will find in the time we spend together is a lot of great questions which have been prepared and polished and written and rewritten. And any one of the answers, like a provocation, like Edward de Bono, the thinking specialist, he called it provocation. A really good question will provoke an answer, and sometimes that answer changes your whole life. So what we did here is we asked you a series of questions. The whole purpose of this is not to educate me, but to force you to think at a better level, because it is the thinking that is more important than anything else. You know, like why? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing something else? What are your assumptions? What if your assumptions were wrong? If your assumptions were wrong, what would you have to do differently? Of all the things you'd have to do differently, what would be the first thing you would need to do? You ask these questions, and they're very provocative. You know, one of the questions that Drucker taught was always question your assumptions. What are you assuming to be true that may not be true? When I work with businesses, I say, you have a product or service in the market. What is your basic assumption? Well, that there's a market for that product or service. Or the second assumption is that you're capable of selling it against entrenched competition. Or the third assumption may be that your product or service is superior to that of others. Or it may not be, but you think you can sell it through clever marketing techniques. Are you with me so far? Questioning your assumptions really opens your eyes. It's scary, by the way. Nobody wants to question their assumptions. We fall in love with our assumptions. So we say, list the 3 biggest business challenges you're facing today. This is really good thought. In other words, what are the things that keep you awake at night? List your 3 most important business goals. And number 3, list your 3 strongest and best qualities as a business person. What areas do you need to improve? What 3 talents, skills, or abilities have been most responsible for your success up to now? We'll come to this later. We call it the law of 3. But basically, there's 3 skills or talents or abilities that account for 90% of your success. And you need to know what they are because those are the reasons why you're successful. What are the 3 biggest mistakes you've made in your business life? That's a painful one. What are the most valuable lessons that you've learned? You know the difference between winners and losers is that winners learn lessons from every setback or experience, and losers just get mad and blame their problems on someone else. And so the smart person is always looking for the lesson, In Napoleon Hill's work with 22 years interviewing actually several thousand business people, he found that one of the characteristics they all had in common, the wealthiest people in America, all who started with nothing, all who were worth enormous amounts, he said was they always looked for the lesson. No matter what happened, they dismissed it. Doesn't matter who's to blame. They looked for the lesson. What can we learn from this experience that will help us to be better and smarter in the future? That is a way of thinking, by the way, that enables you to benefit from everything that happens to you. So then if you could wave a magic wand and achieve any goals in your business life, what would they be? What are your personal take-home income goals in next year, 5 years, 10 years? You know that the greater clarity you have about your goals, the greater likelihood it is that you will achieve it. If your life was perfect, how would it be different from today in 4 critical categories? At one action are you going to take immediately as a result of your answers to these questions? Now, I'd like you to engage in a quick exercise. I want you to turn to the people at your table. I want you to introduce yourself to each person and tell them who you are, where you come from, and what you do, and then answer that last question. What one action have you decided to take as a result of the pre-work? So turn to the people at your table and do this exercise now. Please begin. Introduce yourself and tell them what one action you're going to take.
Lots of other people.
Remember, the most important part of today is action, the actions that you decide to take. The whole purpose of every exercise, and you'll find at the end of every exercise, is what one action are you going to take immediately? And your ability to decide upon that and then to follow through is really the critical determinant. Successful people make decisions and follow through on their decisions, and other people make the same decision and then do nothing and hope that things will get better. So let us begin here. This is learn the skills you'll need to start or grow a $1 million business. I want you to do a fun exercise, and I want you to think of your highest income year to date, the year that you made the very most money, and then I want you to add a 0 to that and set this as your long-term goal. Now, for most people, that's shocking. When I first learned this exercise many, many years ago, and the exercise is 1x to 10x. X to 10x, X to 10x. X is your current highest income. 10x is your ideal income, 10 times. And the first time you do this, by the way, it's a little bit of a shock to the system because it's taken you your whole life to get your income to where it is today. The idea of earning 10 times as much is preposterous. It's a fun exercise, motivational exercise, but is it really preposterous? Because there are ways to do it. Let us imagine, is there one chance in 1,000 that over the years ahead you could increase your income 10 times? Is there one chance in 1,000? All right, so it is possible. It's not impossible, it is possible. Many things might have to happen. Is there 2 chances in 1,000, 1 chance in 500? Well, maybe. In other words, it is possible, so I'm going to give you the great question, the go-ahead question for the rest of your career, and the question is how? Whenever you think of a goal like that, what the average person does is they think of the reasons why it's not possible. What top people do is they think, how? How could it be done? How could it be achieved? What would I have to do? Now, are there people in the world who earn 10 times as much as you? Yes. Now, do you know how much they were earning when they started? Less than you today. And now they're earning 10 times as much. And they're not smarter than you, and they're not better than you, and they're not more talented or more skilled. They just did something different than you're doing. So I just want you to play with this idea, the idea of earning 10 times as much. And we know it's possible because piles of people are doing it, and some of them aren't as smart as you. Then nothing will make you madder than to find somebody who's dumber than you, who's making more money than you. Have you had that experience? Isn't that a bummer? I mean, how could this idiot be doing so well? Well, it's because he or she is doing some of the things that we'll talk about here. So just play with the idea and think about how. One of the exercises that Steve and I have been teaching for years is write the question at the top of the page, how could I increase my income by 10 times over the next 10 years? And then write down 20 answers to your question. I could do this, and I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, more of this and less of this, start here and start there, and just start writing down answers. I could earn this amount and get this percentage, I could sell this much product, I could start, in other words, just play with it like a kid at Christmas. And sometimes what will happen is an idea will just leap out like a flashbulb off the page and say, oh my God, if I did that and it worked, and then what you do is you act as if it were impossible to fail. You just take action as if it were impossible to fail. So play with these. So let's begin. We say your business and personal potential is this. Everybody starts off earning a little at the starting point of life. It's like a great marathon. Everybody starts off, and everybody's earning very little because they have limited earning ability. And then the race starts, and some people get way ahead. The majority stay in the middle, and some people fall so far behind they think they're first. And some people end up earning 10 times as much. So the question is, how do they get there? And the answer is additional knowledge and skill. They just learn and apply new stuff. They just learn and apply more and more stuff. 80% of people, according to the best research that's being done lately, I mean prize-winning research coming out of the University of Florida, is on the area of what is called deliberate practice. And deliberate practice says that people who get to the front are always deliberately practicing and learning new skills, and they learn the new skills that will help them the most at that time. And of course, with a rapidly changing society, society demands new skills. 10 years ago, you didn't need to be good with the internet or computer. Now, you can't even get out of bed without checking your computer. I mean, it's an essential skill that you have to have. People say, well, I'm not really good at computers. I remember when they brought in the new president of IBM, what was his name, out of McKinsey and Company, the biscuit salesman, Lou Gerstner. He didn't even know how to turn on a computer when they put him in charge of IBM. He said he didn't use computers, he had the staff use computers. Interesting, but if someone were to say that today, they'd be laughed out of the room, even a small room. So additional knowledge and skill is the key. Now here is the problem. 80-20 rule, top 20% earn 80% of the money, and so on. The bottom 80% have to struggle for the crumbs that fall off the tables from the top 20%. Here's what they found. The people in the bottom 80% learn their job well enough not to get fired, and then they never get any better. This is one of the great shockers, but it's they could be intelligent, come from the best universities, doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, and college graduates, but 80% of them learn enough to do their job, and then they flatline and never get any better. They never take in any more knowledge and skill. And that's why in the accounting profession, they require that you upgrade your skills by 40 hours a year or you lose your certification, because they know that if you're not upgrading your skills, you cannot serve your clients properly. So they make it mandatory or you lose your license. Are you familiar with this? And why? It's because other than that, they will not learn. But the top 20%, these people are learning all the time. They're hungry to learn how to do what they're doing better. So you are extraordinary. You have special talents and abilities that you can use to achieve all your goals in life. Peter Drucker said that one of the great jobs or responsibilities you have is to figure out what you're good at, and then to do it and do it really well and do it all the time. And we'll come back and talk about that later. So what are your special talents and abilities? What are the things that you do easily that are difficult for other people? What are the things that you enjoy? Now, build a great business. Here's 4 keys that we teach. Number 1 is clarity, or clarify. Be absolutely clear about who you are and what you want. The second is to simplify, is to get all of the things in your life that are cluttering up your life out of your life and simplify it so you're doing only those things that you most enjoy, that give you the most happiness and the best results. The third is to maximize, is how can you get the very most out of yourself and your situation. And then the fourth is to multiply. And I'll explain these 4 in just a second. So in Clarify, we say develop absolute clarity about who you are, what you want, and the best way to achieve it. You'll find that people who set goals accomplish 10 times as much as people who don't set goals. I have a book that I've written. It's called Goals, surprisingly enough. And it's how to get everything you want faster than you ever thought possible. And I get letter after letter after email after phone call of people say it changes their lives. It's changed their lives completely. Their lives has literally exploded like pushing down a dynamite detonator when they started to set very clear written goals with plans that they worked on every day. Surprise, surprise. And people say, well, I know what I want, and I got my goals. I mean, I don't write them down because I'm too tired or what else. That's the same as going across country in a brand new country where you don't speak the language and there are no road signs and no road maps. You could drive forever and never get anywhere. So number 2 is to simplify. And this is what we specialize in. Delegate, outsource, eliminate all low-value, no-value tasks and activities in your life. Remember that 80% of what you do is meaningless. Only 20% of what you do accounts for all the value. However, the 20% of things are hard and the 80% of things are fun and they're easy and they're small and they check the email and call your friend and chat and read the paper and go for coffee and everything else. And because human beings are subject to the path of least resistance, we find ourselves gradually doing more and more of the little fun, easy things. And pretty soon the day's all gone and we haven't done a single thing of value. So this is a real discipline that we have to work on. It's maximize. Maximize means determine your special talents, abilities, and strengths, and focus on developing to the highest level. The other thing is to determine the products and services that you have that have the ability to be real winners and throw all your heart into making them succeed. Interesting, if you asked a business owner, how important is sales to your business? They'll say, oh, it's the most important thing of all. I mean, without sales, it's blood to the brain. I mean, it's oxygen. I mean, you can't live without sales. Well, then they will track them and they will follow them, and they'll find that the average business owner spends 11% of their time on sales. The other 89% of their time is spent being busy. Busy, busy, busy. I'm busy, busy, busy. I'm making my plans, and I'm working on the internet, and I'm calling my friends, and I'm going for lunch, and I'm having meetings, and they're busy, 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 and they can't understand why their business is going sideways. I have a good friend who started a business on his kitchen table with 2 partners. It's now about $1.8 billion. He got 6,000 major customers. We spent some time here last year, and he said he still sees himself as a salesman. And everybody in the company thinks of sales 80% of the time. That's all they think about is sales all day long, which is why they're one of the most successful companies in a very competitive industry, because all they think about is selling. And so we say the only time that you are working when you are in your own business is when you are face-to-face, head-to-head, ear-to-ear, knee-to-knee with someone who can and will buy from you. In fact, your job is one thing in your business, is to ask for money. Your job is to ask people for money. Give me your money. I want your money. Here's a good reason for it. Here's several reasons. Here's what I'll do for it. Here's what I'll give you for it, but give me your money. And if you're not asking for money, you're not working. You're not employed. You're basically wasting time. You're betraying yourself and your family when you're not asking people for money. When you get up in the morning, self-employed business people are unemployed until they get face-to-face with someone and ask them for their money. Are you with me so far? Don't like that, do you? I mean, look at the look that he's got in his face. Well, the fact is, it's a hard way of putting it. And of course, there's lots of things that you have to do to get into field position, to kick the goal, to ask for money. But nonetheless, remember, that's the aim, is to ask for money. Now, here's the most amazing thing. The more you ask for money, the more what happens? People buy from you. Oh, my God, that's deep. Wow. You mean if I ask for money all the time? Now, here's a very important point. When we're young, I don't want to get off track because we're trying to keep on a schedule. When we're young, our favorite word is yes. Can I have candy? Yes. Can I have dessert? Yes. Can I go here? Yes. Can I have that? Yes, 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 yes. What's our least favorite word? No. And so we develop a conditioned response to the word no. We hate the word no. We don't like the word no. We avoid the word no, and we avoid people who say no. We just don't like them because they say no and they make us feel bad. But when we start our own business, who are those people? Customers. Oh, my God. So we just don't call on them. That's what we do. We just won't get around those negative people who are always saying no to us. So here is the rule, is from now on, go for no. Remember that the yeses you get in your life will be in direct proportion to the number of no's that you're willing to suffer. And you don't just accept a no by saying, well, I'll take it like a beating. You know, you go out there, I'm going to get no. You eagerly pursue no's. You eagerly pursue no's. You act as if it were impossible to fail. Imagine if I said to you that you're going to have to talk to 50 people before you find someone who buys, but they'll buy $1 million worth of your product. And so the sooner you get through the 49 people who say no, the sooner you get to the one who will say yes. And that is an absolute guarantee. I'm a multi-billionaire. I can give you that guarantee. If you'll go out there and get 49 no's, you'll get $1 million sale. If you believe that, what would you do? Would you just, maybe talk to 1 or 2 people a day? Or would you be up in the morning and you're just hitting it all day long, getting as many no's as you possibly can? I mean, you're trying to get through those no's as fast as you can to get to the yes. Isn't that true? Say yes. When you start to think like this, I can hardly wait to get the no's, because every no I get is closer to someone who will buy. Every time somebody says no to me, I laugh. I laugh. No, that's money in the pocket. That's the cash register jinging when I hear a no, because it's moving me closer to the sale. What I've just told you is the difference between winning and losing in entrepreneurial life. Winners are always willing to take a no. They don't like it, but they finally reach the point where they say, hey, the only way I can have everything I want in life is being able to endure the no's. Give you a quick story. I was speaking for the Yellow Pages in Toronto, the Yellow Pages for the state of the province of Ontario. And I was giving a talk for all of their top people in this resort outside of Toronto. And the president got up and he told a little story before I got up to tell a story or to talk. And he told a story true story about a friend of his who has won 7 Ironman triathlons. 7 Ironman triathlons. And out of 9 attempts, he won 7. Now, do you know what the Ironman triathlon is? It's the one they do in Hawaii. You have to win triathlons at lower levels before you get to the Hawaiian triathlon. You have to ride a bicycle. Ride a bicycle 115 miles or 100 and something miles. Then you swim 3 miles in the open ocean, and then you run a marathon. And that's the Ironman. He's won 7 out of 9 attempts. And this is against some of the finest athletes and best trained athletes in the world. And so he asked his friend, he said, it's an important story. He asked his friend, why do you think, how is it that you could win 7 triathlons against all of that competition? He said, well, they're all well-trained and determined. They're all persistent, resolute. They're all the finest athletes in the world. He said, but I have one advantage. He said, I'm willing to take more pain than they are. I'm willing to take more pain than they are. Are you with me so far on where we're going here? Is the difference between you and the average person is you're willing to take more pain. You're willing to take more no's. You're willing to work longer and harder hours. You're willing to put in the suffering that other people just won't do. They'd rather go home and watch television and go drinking and watch sports on the weekends and so on. But all the people who are successful are willing to take the pain that goes with their work. And the greatest pain of all is being told no, being rejected, because we take it personally. We think there's something fundamentally wrong with us or our company or our product, and it hurts us, and we feel bad inside. But once you can change your thinking about that and say, hey, no is good. More no's I get. No's are inevitable. They go with the territory. If you go outside in the wintertime, it's cold. If you go into an entrepreneurial business, you get lots of no's. And so you say, okay, I don't mind. I'm going to get all the no's I want. In fact, I'm not just going to wait for no's. I'm going to go out and I'm going to aggressively pursue no's. I'm going to see how many I can get every day. And I promise you this, I promise you, if you will pursue no's, if you will go for no, if you try to get as many no's as possible, you're going to be a big success in life. Nothing will stop you. Because the more you get no's, the smarter you get, the faster you get, the quicker on your feet you get, and the fewer no's you get. The very willingness to go out and get all the no's makes it likely that eventually you get fewer and fewer no's and more yeses. So maximize, determine your special talents and abilities, and this is how you get to use those talents. The talents are no darn good if you're sitting in your office picking at your computer. Multiply, and multiply is where you leverage yourself and your business with other people's customers in joint ventures, which we teach you in business growth strategies, which you have available to you. Knowledge, other people's abilities, the people you hire, other people's efforts, other people's money in financing, and other people's resources. Always be looking for ways. Remember, if you want to earn 10 times your current income, you can't do it by yourself. You're going to have to be able to leverage yourself through a whole lot of other things. And we'll talk about how to do this. So we say there are 4 ways to change your life. And there's only 4 ways. And it's really interesting because I've studied this for years. Only 4 ways to change your life, change your work, change your health, change your relationships, change your business. Number 1, you can do more of some things. Number 2, you can do less of other things. Pretty simple. Number 3, you can start doing something new, which is the hardest thing of all, is for people to start something new because we get into a comfort zone and we are comfortable doing what we're doing and we resist change. It's normal and natural, and we have to force ourselves out of our comfort zone. Interesting study. Do you remember the book Leaders? It came out in the 90s, one of the most popular books on leaders written by Warren Bennis. They studied 93 leaders over a multi-year period, and they determined that they had 5 characteristics that made them leaders in every field that they were in. And one of the characteristics that still stands out for me was that they all realized that there was a natural tendency to fall into a comfort zone and just keep doing what they had done before that worked before. But in an era of rapid change, you had to keep trying something new. And so how did they keep themselves out of a comfort zone? The answer was they just set big goals for themselves. Continually set big goals for themselves and their organizations that forced them out. It forced them out of the box. It forced them to try new things. They couldn't possibly achieve big goals doing what they were doing. So they kept setting big goals deliberately to keep themselves growing and expanding. That's why I say put a 0 on your best year's income and say, that's my goal. Now, with whatever your income is today, you're not going to get 10 times by doing the same thing. You're going to have to really start thinking in much broader terms. And finally, number 4 is you can stop doing something altogether. There's a lot of things that you're doing that when you started doing them, they seem to be a good idea, but now they're not such a good idea. They're not working out that well. You're not getting good results from them. But the danger is you just keep on doing them. Like Old Man River, you just keep on rolling along. And what you have to do is you have to say, what should I stop doing altogether, which we're going to talk about in 1 second. So I'm going to give you an exercise to do. Okay, and this is really important. Remember, the most important thing is questions. I want you to ask this question. Rule, you cannot save time, you can only spend it differently. I'm getting ahead of myself. Whoops. How could that happen here? These are good workbooks, by the way. Okay, here you go. You can only spend time, which is one of the great time management rules, is you cannot save time, you can only spend it. You can only spend it differently from how you're spending it today. It's the same amount of time. So what are you going to do more of? What are you going to do less of? What are you going to start doing? What are you going to stop doing? And here's the great question, and this is one of the greatest exercises you'll ever learn. This exercise is literally life-changing, and it's something you can use for the rest of your life. I've had people go from rags to riches with this one single thinking concept. I think it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest thinking concept available to us as business people in times of rapid change. And you ask yourself, is there anything in your life that knowing what you now know, you wouldn't get into today if you had to do it over? And what we do is we say, always continue to conduct what we call a QUINK analysis on every area of your business. QUINK means knowing what I now know. Whoops. knowing what I now know, is there anything that I am doing today that I would not start up again today if I had to do it over? Now, I know something about you, and you know something about me in times of turbulence and rapid change, is in your life and my life, there's always something that, knowing what you now know, you wouldn't start up again today. You wouldn't get into it again today because it seemed like a good idea when you did get into it, but it turned out that it's not a good idea. How many of your decisions do you think will turn out to be wrong in the fullness of time? Can you guess? What percentage? Well, according to the American Management Association, in business, about 70%. 70% of your decisions will turn out to be a little bit wrong, a lot wrong, or disasters. 70%. So therefore, only 30%. That means that 2/3 of the time you're going to be wrong. Now, what is the difference between the winner and the loser? Is the winner realizes when they're wrong, admits it, and changes course. The loser keeps on doing it. You know the old story about the husband and wife that are driving down the highway and they're going to Los Angeles, and she says, "Honey, is Phoenix on the way to Los Angeles?" And he says, "No, it's a completely different direction." He said, "Well, I just passed a sign saying we're heading to Phoenix." He said, "Never mind, we're making great time." There's a Turkish proverb, one of my favorites, that says, "No matter how long you've gone down the wrong road, turn back." Isn't that a good one? No matter how long you've gone down the wrong road, turn back. The biggest problem with zero-based thinking is ego and cowardice. Is our ego keeps us doing what we did in the past because we don't want to admit that we've made a mistake. And cowardice, we don't want to admit that knowing what we now know, we wouldn't get into this situation. So I want you to complete this exercise. I want you to ask these questions. Is there any relationship, business or personal? Because 85% of your problems in life come with hair on top. And talk back. Of course, there are some exceptions in this room. But 85% of your zero-based thinking is always focused on people. And then are there any products you would not start offering again today? Remember, 80% of the products you have will be obsolete within 2 or 3 years anyway. Are you trying to sell a product today that no longer has a market? Did you hear what Sony just did with regard to the Walkman line? Just discontinued it completely. Trashed it. Shut down the factories. Why? Well, no. What are they buying? iPods. The whole Walkman line, which was a multi-billion-dollar world industry, gone in a few years because of the iPod. And people are saying to Sony, well, there'll always be somebody out there in a third world country who wants a good old Sony Walkman. No. What you have to do is admit that that wasn't any good. Are there any services you wouldn't start offering today, knowing what you now know? Are there any markets you wouldn't go into today? This changes the fate of entire organizations when they decide to abandon a complete market because it's not a good market today. Are there any customers you would not solicit or take on today? One of the smartest things you can do is fire your high-maintenance customers. Just decide not to do business with them anymore. And there's all kinds of ways to get rid of high-maintenance customers. Easiest of all is to double your prices. That'll send them running for the doors like, okay. Are there any sales processes or marketing methods that you wouldn't start using again today, knowing what you now know, because they don't work? Is there any person in your business that you would not hire, promote, or assign to a particular task if you had to do it over again today? Whenever I talk to managers and I share this idea, there's always job changes that take place in that city afterwards. They say, is there anybody working for you that you wouldn't hire again today if you had to do it over? And they look straight at me. I say, is there anybody working for you if they came and told you that they were thinking of leaving, you wouldn't argue with them? Good question, isn't it? Think about that, because keeping the wrong person in place in a business is one of the major reasons why businesses go bankrupt. Small businesses especially. Big companies also go bankrupt. Xerox almost went bankrupt because they had a terrible president. He was the other part of the anatomy that's brown around there. Anyway, that's what they called him. And he was a terrible person. He was abusive, he was negative, he was distant, he was everything else. And when they had to get rid of him to save the company. One bad person in a key place can cause a company to fail. Let's just hope, if it's your business, it's not you. Is there any channel of distribution that you would not start using today? Is there any business process or method, any advertising or marketing method that you're spending a lot of money on but it's not working? Is there anything in your current strategy? Is there any investment of time or money or emotion that you wouldn't make again today? Here's a question. Does anybody know what a sunk cost is in accounting? You have, fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable. Everybody know what a fixed cost is? Come on. Yes, sir. What is it?
Oh, fixed cost? Oh, I actually have to answer this?
You raised your hand. Don't raise your hand if you don't. Pardon?
Overhead.
No. Actually, a fixed cost, I'm sorry, I said fixed, I meant a sunk cost. Did I say a sunk cost? Did I say sunk? Yeah. So does anybody know what a sunk cost is? Let's try that again. Yes, madam.
A sunk cost is a cost that you can't recover through your product and you just have to abandon it and say it was a bad idea.
Absolutely. It's like dropping a brick off an ocean liner in the middle of the ocean. It's gone forever. It's a sunk cost. Now, this is very important. Many people ruin their lives and ruin their businesses trying to retrieve a sunk cost. We say don't throw bad money down after good money after bad. Don't throw money down a rat hole. What that means is you spent the money, it's gone. It's like running an ad and nobody replied. That's a sunk cost. It's gone. It's not an asset. It's not something that's going to generate. So what you do is you look at the three areas of life, what we call your time. You may have put an enormous amount of time into a person, a project, a relationship, a product, a service, something, and it didn't work out. Many people today will actually kill themselves because they put all of their life into a career and the industry changed and their skill was of no further value. And they lost their job and they went home and they're so depressed. They gambled and the time is gone. And you put a lot of time into a person, money, relationship, and so on. It's a sunk cost. The other is money. Sometimes you invest a lot of money into something, it turns out that doesn't work out. You can never retrieve it again. And the third has to do with emotion. Sometimes we invest an enormous amount of emotion, sometimes in a career, sometimes in a relationship, and it's gone. And what we do is we keep trying to get it back. But what smart people do is they realize it's a sunk cost. It's gone forever. I can never retrieve it. And they move on with their lives. Really, really important. And finally, last is there anything at all, is there anything in your health, fitness, diet, or lifestyle that you wouldn't start doing again today, like eating cheesecake and things like that? Is there anything at all in your life that knowing what you now know you wouldn't get into again today? And what actions are you going to take or stop taking as a result of this exercise? And what one action are you going to take immediately? And finally, the last question, how will you measure success? What is your expected date of completion? Please begin with this exercise. Complete the answers. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes, so write quickly. Now, if I can have your attention. There's a rule that says before you start something new, you have to stop something old. Before you get in, you have to get out. Before you pick up, you have to put down. The fact is that your dance card is already full. And one of the most important things you do, and we're still in the introductory part, there's 10 more phases of our program together. In the introductory part, we've got to clear our decks. We've got to clear our decks. I want to build a home, you've got to clear the ground. You have to clear your mind and get out of all these things that you're doing that at one time they seemed like a great idea, but then with the passing of time, it turns out that they're not the very highest and best use of your time. Here's an interesting discovery. Andrew Grove wrote about this in his book, It Pays to Be Paranoid. He said that when you reach a stage where you ask this question, if I had not hired this person, would I hire them back again today? If I had not brought this product to market or made this investment, would I do it again today? And the answer is no, then it's too late to save the situation. People always say, well, maybe I could save it, or maybe I could do a little bit of this. No, when the answer comes up no, it's over. The game's over, everyone's gone home now. The only question is how long will you suffer and how long will you pay before you finally accept that it didn't work out. Now, everybody who ever asks the zero-based thinking question, QUINK, knowing what I now know, would I do this again, and finally admits that no, knowing what I now know, I wouldn't do this again, and ends it. The next question is how do you get out of it and how fast? How do you get out of it and how fast? How do you eliminate the situation and how fast? Everybody who ever does this always has one reaction afterwards. Always. You, me, always has the same reaction, which is, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why didn't I get out of this a long time ago? Why didn't I stop doing this a long time ago? I knew it was wrong a long time ago. Isn't that true? We all know. We all know we should have gotten out of it a long time ago. And so the only question is, how long will you suffer before you finally admit, hey, it wasn't a great decision. I put everything I could into it. I tried to make it work, didn't work, and then you get on with the rest of your life. But then it clears your decks. And as soon as you admit you're in a zero-based thinking situation and decide to walk away, suddenly you're liberated. You're free. Your energy comes back. You're happy. And all the negative things that you thought might happen as a result of getting out of that situation, none of them ever occur. None of them ever happen. It's the most amazing damn thing. And I worked with companies, including many billion-dollar companies, for 25 years, and they're always astonished when they actually follow up on this. Nothing bad ever happens. As a matter of fact, only good things happen. frees your mind, and frees your resources, and so on. Now, if you'll notice here, what I want you to do is we're going to talk about the mastermind concept. The mastermind concept is what we're going to do at each table. The mastermind concept, according to Napoleon Hill, is the most important single concept in success in business because the group mind together is far more creative and far more helpful than individual minds. You know the old saying that no one of us is as good as all of us are together. So you have now formed a mastermind at your table, and I'm going to ask you to appoint a leader, not the coach, but a leader at your table who is going to be responsible for making sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. The coaches may move around, but the leader will stay. So therefore, in a mastermind, everyone is positive and committed to success. You share ideas and opinions openly. You ask lots of questions. You look for ways to help and encourage, and you take turns and give each person a chance to speak. So the job of the leader at your table is to make sure everybody gets a chance to answer the question, which is, what one action are you going to take as a result of this discussion? And then you can ask, why are you going to take that action? And how would you measure success? And why is that the best thing you could do? And so you ask questions that help people to think better. Again, little questions that help them to think in greater depth. So what I want you to do is two things. First of all, agree amongst yourselves who's going to be the leader at your table. And second of all, go around and answer that question. What one action are you going to take now based on your responses to the zero-based thinking question? So decide upon the leader at your table and then go around and answer that question for each other. I have to congratulate you. This is one of the toughest of all exercises that you can do. And there's a rule that says that you learn what you teach. So when you ask this exercise of yourself, think about people in your life who are unhappy with something and say, you know, you're unhappy with this job, career, product, service, relationship. Knowing what you now know, would you get into it again if you had to do it over? This is going to be one of the most helpful things that you ever do for someone else. Because we allow our egos to get us, once we're into something, we're very reluctant to let go of it because we have to admit that we're wrong and that we made a mistake. And if you help people say, it's okay to make a mistake. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. 70% of the time you make mistakes. The only question is, how long do you stay in the mistake? This is a go-forward question. For the rest of your life, whenever you experience stress or resistance or anxiety or worry, ask yourself, wait a minute, knowing what I now know, would I get into this situation again? And if the answer is no, no matter what the cost, walk away. Get out. And you'll find the greatest moments of your life is when you had the courage to just walk away from a bad situation. Isn't that true? Yeah, and afterwards, you felt great, and not only that, nothing bad ever happened. There's something that we learned, Steve and I taught this for years, is that when you're young, you give a lot of thought to what people think about you. And as you get into your 30s, you stop thinking or don't worry about what people think about you. And when you get into your 40s, you find out the great truth is that nobody's ever thinking about you at all. And so never do or not do something because you're afraid of what somebody might think about you, because they're not thinking about you at all. It's a height of vanity and ego for you to think, well, if I do this, somebody else might be worried or offended. Ha! They don't even think about you. They couldn't care less. So therefore, do what makes you happy. Which brings us to another exercise, is the quick list method. And what we have found is when you only have 30 seconds to write down your answers, that will be as accurate as if you had 30 minutes. And this is a wonderful way to get your mind really revved up. It's like stomping on the accelerator of your mind. So I'm going to walk you through these exercises, and I'm going to time you so that you don't spend any more time. And so I'm going to ask you these questions, and your job in 30 seconds is to write down the answers. So, number one, what are your 3 most important business goals right now? 30 seconds. Write as fast as you can. "20 seconds. 10 seconds. Write quickly. Stop. Second question. What are your 3 most important financial goals right now? Write quickly. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. Third question, what are your 3 most important family goals right now? Twenty seconds. Ten seconds. Question number 4, what are your 3 most important health goals right now? Right quickly. Ten seconds. 20 seconds. Ten seconds. Question 5, what are your 3 biggest problems or difficulties in your business or personal life right now? Twenty seconds. Right quickly. Ten seconds. Question 6, what are the 3 most important skills or capabilities that you'll need to develop in the future? Twenty seconds. Ten seconds. Question 7, what are the 3 most important goals that you would like to achieve in the course of your career? Twenty seconds. Ten seconds. Now, what one action are you going to take immediately as a result of your answers to these questions? Write it down. And how will you measure success, and what is your expected date of completion? Give you 30 more seconds. Now, if I could have your attention. Sometimes I give this to a large public audience. I'll say, everybody write down the 3 most important goals in life right now, just the one question. And they'll all write it down, they have 30 seconds. I'll say, now, if you have some real courage, go home tonight and say, honey, here's a piece of paper, write down your 3 most important goals in life right now, and have your spouse do it, or your mate. And then, after they've done it in 30 seconds, then compare the 2, your goals and their goals, and be prepared for a long conversation. But this is a great question. Whenever you're wondering about your direction, always say, wait a minute, what are my 3 most important goals in life right now? The first question, by the way, your 3 most important goals in life will always be a health goal, a relationship goal, and a financial goal. But then when you start to break it down, 3 financial goals, 3 health goals, 3 relationship goals, you start to become more specific. The purpose of these questions is like that provocation, like that cattle prod. It provokes you into thinking. And if you only have 30 seconds, sometimes what will appear under your hand is very different from what you thought your goals were. So this is a good start, which brings us to the next exercise. There's always 3 key questions. Number 1 is, where are you now? Financially, health, relationships, everything else. Where do you want to be in the future? If you could wave a magic wand and your future was perfect, what would you like it to be? And how are you going to get there? That question, how, again. How are you going to get there? Not whether, but how. So I'm going to give you an exercise which is kind of like a cheating exercise, because I told you before that I would tell people that I can show you how to double your income and double your time off in 1 year, and then I give them a series of exercises, and this is one that I front-end load my course with, because this exercise is so powerful, it's just literally life-transforming. The 10-goal method says you write down 10 goals. You write them down with a 1-year time horizon. You use the first person singular, which means you always begin your goals with the word I. And you write, I achieve, I have, I earn, I sell. You use an action verb, because that's what motivates your subconscious mind and activates your superconscious powers, which we'll talk about tomorrow. You use the present tense as though the year has passed and you've already achieved the goal. So you don't say, I will weigh, but I weigh. Not I will earn, but I earn. Because your subconscious mind can only accept a command that is phrased in the present tense, in the now. So always recite your goals as though they had already been accomplished. Make a positive statement. Don't say, I will lose weight, but I weigh this amount. I will quit smoking. No, you say, I am a non-smoker. So it's always positive, and set a deadline. So I always say, buy. I weigh this amount by this time. I make this level of sales by this date. And always put a date, because your subconscious mind loves a deadline. It acts as a subconscious forcing system, and it drives you unconsciously. It gives you ideas, it gives you energy, gives you motivation. It sets up the law of attraction, which attracts into your life people and circumstances that make it possible, and so on. So always say, I achieve this by, I accomplish this by. All right, so I'm going to ask you to write down 10 goals for the next 12 months in the present, positive, personal tense. You can write more than 10 if you like, but write a minimum of 10. Please begin. Now, this is a great exercise. This is a front-end loading exercise, because when people do this, it's life-transforming. All over the world, people have come up to me and say, you know, when you were here a year or 2 years ago, you had us write down our goals, and I didn't think it would work. I thought it was motivational, but I wrote down the 10 goals anyway because the people around me were doing it. He said, you won't believe what's happened to me. And those are the most common words I hear all over the world. Brian, you won't believe what's happened to me since I wrote those 10 goals. You won't believe what's happened to me. 8 of those 10 goals will be accomplished in the next 12 months in ways that you cannot now imagine. Because when you write down the goals, you program them into your subconscious mind, you activate your superconscious ability, you activate the law of attraction, a whole series of other powers, and things start to happen in your life that are quite astonishing. If all you did was take this list and fold it up and put it somewhere where you wouldn't see it for an entire year, like perhaps in the pages of your Bible, you know, someplace you never look. At the end of the year, when you open it up, you'll be both happy and sad. You'll be happy because 8 of your 10 goals will have been accomplished in the most remarkable ways, and you'll be sad because you wish you had set more goals and bigger goals. Now, does this work? Yes. Does it work everywhere? Yes. Does it work all over the world? It's the most amazing darn thing. People say, well, you know, what if it doesn't work? No, you nitwit, that's the wrong question. What if it does work? It costs you a piece of paper and a little bit of ink. And if you don't have the piece of paper, your mother will give it to you. She wants you out of the house anyway. Now, so imagine you can have all of these goals, and you can if you want them long enough and hard enough and are willing to work toward them. But imagine that you have a magic wand. And I brought my magic wand with me today. And imagine, looking at your list, that you could have any one of the goals that you wrote down within 24 hours. If you could have any one of the goals on your list, abracadabra, abracadoo, poof, within 24 hours, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on your life? which one goal would change your life the most in the most positive way? Whatever it is, put a circle around that goal. That becomes your number one goal. It becomes your major definite purpose. It becomes your focal point. It becomes the concentration point, the point of the spear in your life. And once you've put your circle around that, you've moved into the top 1% of adults in our world today. Because only the top 3% have written goals in the first place, and only the top 1% know exactly what their number one goal is. And from this day forward, your life will be different. Now, when you get up in the morning, you think about that goal. And all through the day, you think about the goal. And every day, you do something that moves you toward the goal 7 days a week. And when you ever have a problem, you think about the goal. And when you read, think about the goal. And when you have obstacles or difficulties in life, you think about the goal. And the more you think about the goal, the deeper and deeper you program it, and the more of your mental powers become available to you. And all the laws in the universe begin to work for you like a harmonic convergence. Is a life only becomes great when you decide upon your major definite purpose, the one goal that you want to achieve more than anything else that will help you to achieve more of your other goals. Usually it's financial. But I've had people who have had business goals, family goals, and even health goals, that if they were able to resolve a health goal, that would have the greatest positive impact on their life. And so what you're going to do is you're going to turn to the next page here. You see this? Whoop. There we go. You're going to turn to the next page. Single-minded focus on one goal, the most important, simplifies your life and accelerates your progress. It's almost like a wide river that meanders toward the ocean, but then it starts to go through a narrow canyon, and it gets narrower and narrower. It's the same amount of water, and it just pours with incredible power and force. That's what happens to you. You start to pour with incredible power and force when you have a single goal. So I want you to turn to this next page and complete this exercise. It's very simple. Your major definite purpose. What is your most important goal in life right now, and what is your deadline for achieving this goal? And then just fill out the questions. What are the obstacles you have to overcome? What are the knowledge, skills, and abilities you'll have to acquire? Whose cooperation and assistance and support will you require? What steps will you need to take, and what one step are you going to take immediately? Please begin. I have to congratulate you because in our introduction, which we are just completing now, you've not only decided what you want, you've decided what you don't want, you've decided what to do more of, what to do less of, what to start doing, what to stop doing altogether. You've decided your most important goals in life in three ways in several different categories, and your most important goal overall, and you've written out a description of how you're going to achieve it. You've accomplished more basically in the first 90 minutes than many people accomplish in a decade. And what has happened by writing all these things down, you're programming them into your subconscious mind, and all sorts of things will start to happen. You're already starting to get ideas and insights and thoughts about things that you could do or start doing that would enable you to achieve your goals. So we're making great progress, and in the second session, we're going to launch into the first of our 10 sessions for the course. But before we start, you have to decide what you want more of, what you want less of, what you're going to get into, what you're going to get out of, and now we're ready to go. Now, a lot of people here have come a long way to attend this seminar. We appreciate it very much. We also appreciate those of you who came from eastern U.S., where everybody was got 2 or 3 feet of snow. I have friends still sitting in airports trying to catch planes in Washington and New York and Boston. So we thank you very much for being here. But we have some friends here. I just want to read this, and I'd like to have you stand up so we can give you a hand of applause. We have people from Australia. Please stand up. Wow. And Bulgaria and Canada. Where's our Bulgarian? Where is he? Stand up. Keep standing up. And Canada to the north. Where's our Canadians? Yay! All right. And China. We have at least 2 people who came from China. Yes. Thank you. That's the furthest person. And France. Who came from France? Wonderful. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. And India. Who came from India? Well, all right. They probably went to the wrong seminar. All right. And Mexico. Okay, thank you. And finally, Romania. Someone came from Romania. Well, thank you very much. It's wonderful to have you. Now, to get kicked off, I like to start with the end of my last session with regard to your major definite purpose and the one action you're going to take to achieve it. So I'd like you to start off by turning to the people at your table, and your team leader will give everybody a chance to talk and tell each person at your table what your major definite purpose, number one goal that can have the greatest positive impact on your life if you were to achieve it. And if it doesn't make your stomach kind of jump and make your heart pound a little bit when you think of achieving that goal within 24 hours, if that doesn't, then you've picked the wrong goal. And then tell us, what one action are you going to take immediately to kick the ball into play, to start the game, to start moving toward achieving that goal? So please turn to the people at your table and do this. Thank you. We were just talking, please give me your attention. We were just talking at the table back there, and I have a friend. I'm going to give you sort of two thoughts with regard to your major definite purpose. And I was thinking about this. I was just discussing it with Barbara recently as well. My friend Dave Kekich is a really smart guy. Has a little list of what he calls Kekich's credos for business, and they're very smart. One of them is this, and it says, work on your major goal as though you had a gun to your head. And I thought, what a picture that is. Isn't that a good picture? Well, and Dorothea Brande, who was a writer during the 30s, was frustrated and struggling, and she went and she sought advice from an older writer, publisher, and he gave her this piece of advice, which she wrote down, which has become a classic piece of advice. She said, work on your goals as though you were guaranteed to succeed. Is work on your goals as if they were guaranteed if you would work on them. So you combine those two. She said, work as if it were impossible to fail. Work as if it were impossible to fail. So if you combine those two, imagine that your major goal, the one that you wrote down that would have the greatest positive impact on your life, imagine that you are guaranteed a success. It's impossible to fail, and you work at it as though you had a gun to your head. Would that change your life? I mean, that would literally transforms people's thinking about themselves. Instead of pissing around with a goal, what they do is they just go at it like a dog going after a passing car. Only this time they catch something.